a personal reflection of my experience as a black man in corporate America. I aim to bring proximity to the notion that prejudice, racism, and inequity aren't completely diminished by professional and economic success. As a matter of fact, successful blacks also share in the burden of continuing to endure the deeply rooted systematic mechanisms of America. With so many narratives being provided, if you choose to understand the current issue, I urge you to anchor yourself in the daily expectation required from you at this firm. Examine the current output, understand the transformation or process which led to that output, and then go further back to the inputs, just as the expectation would be not to get distracted by, we've always done it this way, that's how this process works, we can't change our current process because we're dependent on another team who says it needs to be done this way. None of those responses allow for the consistent and innovative evolution required at this firm. Apply that same rationale when presented distractions from the heart of this issue, which is the desire for human equality and the examination of the current inequities throughout our nation. If you're still reading this email, then you realize this isn't a story of someone you don't know. The heart of the story is, this is about Johnathan Hill, the same person who was provided countless shoulders for my peers to lean on, consistently shown a positive moral fabric and example of how you should show human care and concern for your fellow man, irrespective of background, irrespective of skin color, race, ethnicity, political affiliation, etc. No matter how much effort I place into the previous, each day I leave my home with the understanding that I might not make it home. That is as much of my reality as the sun rising each day. I, and really many other countless black peers, leave from our offices in the uptown skyline, many of us in luxury vehicles, to nice homes, many to spouses and children, but most of all to the safety of our four walls. My family then prepares to eat dinner and together, as we share stories of our day. Now, this is significant because my family typically takes a walk after dinner. Although I'm still in my neighborhood, I'm no longer in my uptown skyline office where so many peers know of me. They know my story, they know my work ethic. I'm no longer in my suit, which, to no surprise, serves as police deterrent, as long as it's also accompanied by a smile. The combination of the two have become a recipe to prevent being seen as an immediate threat or fit in the description. But before I go on a walk with my family, since I am shedding that protection, the nice vehicle and the home, the respected position in a respected firm, I have to diligently take time to determine what clothes will I put on to prevent weaponizing my stature and my skin color. It's a little chilly out, right? So maybe I'll put on a hoodie. Nope, can't put that one on. It's warm, but it's big and bulky. I may be suspected of having a weapon. Not this one. It promotes a friend's faith-based basketball training facility and has their logo on it and their slogan. But people might not understand it immediately and think that it's a defamatory statement resulting in fear that I'm threatening to either themselves or their children. So I throw on the slimmer, neutral color hoodie I've used to do work on in my home time and time again. As I get downstairs, a conflict ensues with my wife. She's afraid I don't look like I belong in the neighborhood because my hoodie is soiled from painting and yard work. Since I don't look like I can actually afford the neighborhood by the clothes I'm wearing, then there's an increased chance for an interaction with the police. More importantly, there's an increased chance I don't come home in my own neighborhood. I just want to take a walk with my family so I can appreciate the beautiful neighborhood I worked so feverishly hard to afford myself and also my family. I just want to take a walk with my family. If this is what I have to endure to go on a walk with my family, imagine the mental anguish and the fortitude the black community must temper to go past their neighborhood. Now replace the uptown office with a minimum wage job and the suit with a uniform. What mental agility must be practiced daily to stay alive when venturing past the safety of their four walls? Although I have answered I'm okay for many years, this has been my reality. During the current time, where ample professional and social media coverage is highlighting the issue, I will probably not answer, I'm okay. I'm going to say, I'm not okay. I'm exhausted.
And all the people are sleeping now.
Hey, soulmates, and welcome to the Soul of a Man podcast. I am your boy, DB. I'm here with my wonder twin.
My man,
Chill, what's good, brother?
it's all good. It's all good.
Hey, man, it's good seeing you as always.
You as well. You as well.
Well, look, before we get this episode started, what I'm going to say is this. There's no guarantee this is going to go an hour. This could go an hour and a half. This could go 2 hours. Don't know. We're going to try to keep it to an hour. But what I do is encourage you to stay on regardless because you've got to hear this story. What you heard prior to us coming on air is an email that was penned by a really good friend of mine to his corporation. The corporation he works for is the second largest bank corporation in the banking industry.
Yes.
This all took place during the George Floyd murder, also during the peak of COVID. And my friend John Hill, who's our guest for today, was simply expressing how he felt during that time. And I would venture to say that there were many of us as black men who felt the exact same way. Before we get into the podcast, I just want to say welcome, John, to the show. John is a friend of mine. We've been friends for 10, 11 years now. It's funny, my wife and I used to work with his wife. We all met around that time when we were doing work. I actually met John's daughter, who is now 11 years old, if I'm not mistaken. She was younger than my youngest daughter at the time when I met her. And I remember holding her, and she was actually literally rubbing my head. And John was like, who is this strange man that my daughter's rubbing on his head?
About that.
So his wife said, I want you to meet Darren and Janelle. They work with me. They're some great people. We met John. We hit it off right away. I thought he was an amazing guy. He's an amazing father. He's an amazing husband. There's so many adjectives I could use to describe him. This interview is going to be full of layers, so bear with us. Essentially, what it boils down to is when a black man just tells you he is not okay. Guys, welcome to the Soul of a Man podcast. My friend, my brother, my babies, Darren Ray, her godfather, Johnathan Hill. John, welcome to the show, brother.
But I am so pleased to be here. Thank y'all, gentlemen, for allowing me to come on board. Appreciate you, DB.
Yeah,
Chill.
man.
Absolutely.
Well, look, brother, just like we tell any guest, number one, this is your episode. So don't feel compelled to conform to anything we say or do. This is your episode. Give it whatever you got. But what we'd love to do is find out a little bit about you, your upbringing, your family structure, and all of that good stuff before we get started.
Yeah, that's perfect. Perfect. So many people know that I'm actually from 757. I have no problem, even in my corporate suit and tie, to say 2 up, 2 down. I will educate any and every person that understands, right? That's 2 fingers up for VA, 2 fingers down for the V and for the A. But I proudly rep the area because it made me who I am. I'm a product of a predominantly a single mother household, first generation college student. But from a Virginia Beach standpoint, that's a military area, right? So I made a valiant effort that I would not be heading into the military. Right, which was challenging because you're talking about walking into the mall when you're a kid and you pass 42 recruiters, right? Yeah, in the mall, and they just racking them up and scooping them up. But you know, I definitely have an appreciation and a thankfulness for those that served in the military. But I decided to go a different path and a different route. My mom was an extremely hardworking woman, and I got that from her very early. That's why today no one will outwork me. Regardless of what the scenario is, I just refrain to allow that to be a narrative. But found myself in the banking industry at about 16. So in high school, I was one of those guys where, you know, I could hoop, but I was also in the books. So I've tried to find, you know, who was my group, who was my peer group. And so I actually started taking an accounting class. And during the summer, they offered a role, right? So there was a Virginia Beach Schools Federal Credit Union, kept a role open to coordinate with the Virginia Beach City school system, where if, in fact, you took an accounting class, they would welcome you to interview for an open role for a teller. I beat out the rest of the competition and got my first got my teller role, pardon me, and that was at 16. So that really taught me right off the bat to be able to have a lot of confidentiality, because it was the school's credit union, which meant at 16, my teachers were coming into me to take the money out their account, right? So I could see the overdrafts. I could see the ones that were doing well, that managed money, the ones that didn't manage money. I got a really early introduction into confidentiality because I was heading right into school, right, that next school year, and had developed a relationship with those individuals at that time as customers, right, or members from the credit union perspective.
And it was housed within your school?
No, Virginia Beach Schools Credit Union had its own. It was its own facility.
Wow.
It was its own facility,
Okay.
own organization, own entity.
Okay.
Yeah. So anybody within the school system could actually become a member, and that whole fabric of the school system, the janitors to teachers to officials, principals. It was just great to get an exposure, and I met some really great people. I happened to be in Virginia hosting an event last weekend. And I was sitting with Pharrell's organization, one of his nonprofits, is called Yellow. I was sitting with his director of communication, and I was asking her how Pharrell's family is, because Pharrell's family was in the school system. And so I met them through the school system. So his mom, his dad, my wife went to school with his younger brother, one of his younger brothers. So, and I graduated from Princess Anne, which was the same school he graduated from. Teddy Riley Studio was literally right outside our doorstep, right? So, just a lot of fabric as far as that's concerned. But that entry into financial services allowed me to get my first step. My wife actually, like 2 years later, she was at a different school. Didn't know her at the time. She came through the exact same program, got the job. The day she walked through the door, I was like, good Lord, that girl fine. I am going to marry her. Now, she likes it when I tell that story, because what she remembers is me like, hey, welcome to the credit union. Real loud. When you came in, you knew you was coming into my credit union. That was my domain. I had a desk that was sitting kind of in the lobby area, and I opened up accounts and things of that nature. I matriculated through different roles on the teller line, but that's where I met the wife. We got married not too long after that, so we've been married coming up on 20 years next year.
Wow.
Very blessed to be in that together for longer than that. But then we decided, hey, we was going to move to Charlotte, right?
So let's back. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No. Go ahead, because I
You guys
realized
got married at what age?
that's a good question. I'm 40, so 21, 22.
Wow.
Yep.
Young.
Very young. Now, we had gotten engaged. I locked it down early. It only took about 6 months worth of dating, and I locked it down, right? I saw the values that she had. She was a beautiful person on the outside and just as beautiful on the inside. We were young, but we really weren't sure what we wanted to do. So we had a long engagement, right? We were engaged for like 4.5 years,
Gotcha.
right? Or right around that time, before we actually took the plunge and actually got married. But yeah, to answer your question, D, it's been a little bit, man. I'm an old man.
Hey, I can say, man, that before you go on, that I can totally understand why you locked her down. She's my sister, and not biologically, but she will give you the shirt off her back. She has like the most amazing skills as it relates to planning and organizing and cooking and decorating. And when she sees this episode, we're coming. She's got a business she's got to start.
Oh
So
man,
just so
speak
she
it.
knows.
Speak it.
Just so she knows.
Yes.
Sorry, brother. Go ahead.
No, it's all good. So the longest and short of that piece is we really recognize that the 757 area, although as great as it was, as the beach babes that we are, right, there was just something more. So we ended up being told, someone said, hey, have you looked at Charlotte? And initially I was like, North Carolina? Right, I'm looking to go north. I don't know, right? What city is north?
Right.
And so we ended up coming to take a weekend trip here, and we were sold. We moved here, basically didn't know anybody here, and didn't have any family. Took a trip here, and that was in 2016. No, 2006. Excuse me. And really haven't looked back since. Wow. Now financial services just hit 26 years this year in financial services.
Wow. That's a gutsy pick up and go move for a young couple.
Had to trust God early.
Yeah.
I
Early.
hear you. I think I shared with you too. Darren and I both A&T alum, and my best friend is from Portsmouth. So
right
down the road from you.
P-Town. That's all right. Part of the 7 cities. We adopt them. Yeah. Absolutely.
And it was interesting to see the fellas who came from the whole Tidewater area to A&T a year younger, a few years younger, and I'm sure some of them are going to see this. Most confident kids I ever seen in my life, and it was in all of them. And, you're like, what was it in this area that made these folks the way they are? It wasn't cocky.
Right.
It was straight up confidence. I'm here. I'm supposed to be here.
Right.
And you're going to know that I'm here. And, it ran through every single one of them.
It's in that beach water.
Man, it is. But, and I know we got some other places to go, but a friend of mine that's doing some documentaries on local talent there, we were talking about it, right? Like, you're talking about an area that has historic racism built into the area.
Yes.
Military. So you got a melting pot of people consistently coming there. I think we were at like 8 bases within an hour of each other. SEAL Team 6 is there. Everything is there. And so you have all these different dynamics that are coming together. And then you have a heavy influence from New York. So like, one of my favorite all-time groups, if anybody knows me, Wu-Tang.
Yep.
Wu-Tang had Wu-Tang stores there. That was some of their Wu-Tang stores. They were always coming through the area. It was a very heavy New York influence. So I think when you look at it from that perspective, the intersection of all of those dynamics created some individuals that, look, we knew who we are. We knew what we represent. And when we come onto a particular situation, look, we 7'5" all day. We forget the 7. We 7'5" all day.
So yeah, man, you have what I would consider. Again, there's going to be layers to this interview, ladies and gentlemen. You have what I consider kind of an unconventional route to success.
That's fair.
One thing we failed to mention, and John is a father of 2. His daughter and his son, who's 13 years old, who's the most mannerable kid you will ever lay your eyes on. That's an testament to John and to Shiana. They have done an amazing job raising these kids, and all I know is I hear Uncle Darren and Auntie Janelle, and Uncle Darren and Auntie Janelle.
That's right.
And it's yes, ma'am, yes, sir, and it's like the most amazing things for parents as young as you guys are, because you're in your 40s. You guys are young to me. For your kids to be as mild-mannered and as well-behaved as they are is a true testament to what you guys have done in raising them. So
appreciate that.
Shout out for that. Now, anyway, so you take this kind of long route to where you are today. Most people graduate high school, go off to college. You graduate high school, you work, you get married at a very young age. You guys relocate. Then you have children shortly thereafter. And then you decide that, you know what, I'm going to take this college route. Sort of talk us through that time frame.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Prayerfully that we were able to matriculate directly out of high school and hit that collegiate track. And then we're off to the races, right? That's what we all hope for. Or at least, depending on whether you want to go entrepreneurial. But I was, at 17, 18, I had become a loan officer. right? And I was creating loans. I was doing car loans. I was doing home. I hadn't done home equity lines at that point, but my peers were. I knew financial literacy, forward and backwards as it relates to credit scores and what drives a score up and down. I was going to credit seminars. I was, really, really deep into financial services at a very young age. Not so much, skilled and wise to like, okay, how does this really set me up, for the future? But more so in the short term, I see y'all, my friends graduating from college, going off to graduating from high school, going off to college, and I'm like, yeah, but look at this check I got, right? This check, I'm doing pretty good. Now I'm at the credit union, so I ain't doing like for real great. Credit union industry definitely is behind the banking industry, or banks. But I was doing a pretty decent scratch. I felt like I was doing well by the people that were coming in to see me. Right, they were getting loans to send their kids to college. They were getting loans to get their kids cars or to get themselves vehicles, or short-term loans because there was something that was going on in their area. And I felt like, yeah, I'm empowered. Like, I like what I'm doing. I like this. And I failed to immediately go to school, which was fine, right? That's part of my path now. Yeah. But you're right. It was I'm a college graduate now, but it was a very unconventional path, and I'm a non-traditional student. So when we got here, I did have success. It wasn't immediate because, as I told you all before, I showed up, to North Carolina. Look, y'all gonna hire me. You don't know what kind of talent this is. Resume in hand, whole portfolio of them, my suit on, hard bottoms on, walking into these big towers, handing my resume to now who I know was the security guards looking at me like, brother, I can't help you. I don't. You matter of fact, if you get on, put me on, right? But after a while, I got acclimated to the area. Taking it back a step. No college, decided to move because we wanted to stay in financial services. We had already had a strong foothold in there. Thought, hey, this is the second location for banking just after New York. Yep. Right, money goes a long way. Great schools. We know we want to start a family at some point in time. Hey, great move. So when I get here, I start working for Lending Tree Loans. I started doing mortgages. I work for several regional and small banks and credit unions, and I do a myriad of different roles. Right, definitely respecting my my employment history. So I'm training everybody in the staff. It was the first time where I remember I did a training session, and during the training session, I had Kanye playing. Right on everybody, and I built the Balboa training, and I had Kanye champions. And look, this is how funny it is. I remember someone saying to me, "Oh, Queen, you're Queen champions." I was like, "No, Kanye." Kanye. I didn't even know he had sampled it from there. Right, that's how young I was leading the training. But that's a funny statement for a longer story. But it was for a while that I was hopping from place to place, and I was like, I can compete. I can get up into those towers, right? Mm-hmm. I know I can sit much higher. I have much more to add. I have a higher level of contribution that I can make than what I am today. But I was like, sat down with my wife, Shannon, like, look, I'm missing the degree, right? That's what I'm missing. I can't, it's a barrier to entry in this market that I need the degree. Mm-hmm. So I started community college. I had started community college back in Virginia, but, only a few classes here and there. So I went to community college here, finished. By the way, Charlotte has a great community college. Yep. Looks like most college campuses. Sure it's sprawling. And so I got a really good education there. But really where I was trying to figure out was, well, how do I translate this, right? Like the associate's degree is great, but it's to get the bachelor's degree. But get the bachelor's degree in what? Right? At this point, I got like 10 years with the financial services industry. How do I best couple education to translate to the salary that I want, the responsibility that I want? And I ended up talking to a few friends who were computer science and, so forth. But I found management information systems, right? Mm-hmm. In the business college, learning business and learning tech. And UNC Charlotte and Bank of America had actually opened up a brand new internship. It was an 18-month paid internship at the end of your college career. And it was basically, don't mess it up, get in, you're immediately into Bank of America, right? A natural transition. When I found that, I was still at CPCC. I called I don't know how I got it, but I got the manager's phone number of that internship. I called her so many times. That last call, she was like, look, Johnathan, I know this is you. So you don't go to UNC Charlotte yet. you're not in the program. When you get here, I won't even accept your application. And I was like, okay, I appreciate it. Thank you for giving me all the information all these times. Appreciate it. Hung up, and I was like, perfect. I've done what I need to do. Yeah. When I get there, she already is going to know who I am when I step foot in the door. Yeah. So got the, long story short, got the associate's degree from Central Piedmont, matriculated to UNC Charlotte, was entered into the internship, killed it there. I'm financial services for quite some time, right? And then matriculated or was recruited directly into Bank of America into a management analyst program, and since then just been on my way.
So I'm not gonna let you skip over some things.
Okay, all right.
You left some stuff.
I did.
And I know this, brother, so I know some stories here. So you are at UNC Charlotte. You're doing an internship at the same time.
Yes.
And then you're also working a full-time job.
That's correct.
You're going to school. You wake up, you go to school.
Yes.
You leave school, you go intern.
That's right.
You leave intern, you go to work at night.
That's right.
Yeah. How many hours a day did you sleep on average?
2 to 3.
2 to 3.
2 to 3 hours. 2 years.
So for 2 years, you slept 2 to 3 hours a day, which is as unhealthy as it can be.
Pretty much.
Yeah. But you were a younger man, so you could probably handle it then. By the way, he still doesn't get much more than that right now, I can tell you that. But you ran into a little snag as it relates to being tired and not getting adequate sleep. Walk us through that. You're trying to do the right thing for yourself and by your family, but when you're trying to do the right thing, it's inevitable that the devil's going to come in and say, "Nah, we're going to poke at you." Let's 100%. Talk about it.
That was the event that you're talking about was extremely traumatic. Like super traumatic for me emotionally. It took a very much so a toll in many different factors. But to paint the picture, you're right. It starts with the time, right? So I was at a 4-year school in UNC Charlotte. There was not online or night classes to be able to complete your degree like there are today.
Right.
And so it's basically like you need to figure it out. If you want to go to a full-time, school where your classes are offered in the day, you just got to figure it out. Mm-hmm. So 8 a.m. classes, I quit my job. And said to the wife, like, look, I'm going to figure it out. I had a friend that worked nighttime sales. I was like, I'm going to try that. So the schedule was wake up in the morning, take the day class. To your point, some days went to the internship for Bank of America, which there was a requirement for 20 hours a week. I'm in school full time as well. And then to feed the family, because at that time, Mariah and Christian were, I think, one in newborn or either 1 and 2.
Yep.
And so needless to say, I was having to come back home and try to relieve the wife a bit. Now, we did move my mom down from VA. Yep. Brought her here, and she, gracefully and thankfully was able to come in and really relieve my wife during the day quite a bit. But it was taking the toll of the school, the internship, and selling security systems at night.
Wow.
Right? In basically South Carolina. So now, South Carolina to Charlotte is not a big commute in general. People make that commute every single day. But the area that we were in, it was me getting off at like 10 or 11 o'clock at night, driving 40 minutes home after being in class at 8 a.m., internship, everything. And I was working 7 days a week. So to be able to get some of those 20 hours in for the internship, I had to move and allocate some of those hours to Saturday and Sunday.
Wow.
But during the week, I did have still some hours that I had to work in order to just make it work where I wasn't, gone from my family the entire 7 days every day for 2 years. So one night, it's taking a toll on me. I shouldn't say one night. There were several nights. I am like pulling in the driveway, prayerful. I am tired. There are some intersections. I don't remember how I got through that intersection, which, I think back about it today, I'm like, that's super dangerous, right? Like extremely dangerous. But it was what I had to do. I really didn't see another way in order to be able to make things happen. And so there's this one night where I've made it the 40-minute drive. I get off the interstate. I drive down the road, pull into the neighborhood. As I pull into the neighborhood, I wake up to crash. I hit a parked car. Wow. Now, if that wasn't bad enough, because I'm trying to provide a better path and a better way from the family, and now I got to figure out car insurance, everything like that. Call the wife. I'm okay. I've been in an accident, but I'm good. But number one, there was a young lady and a young man in the parked car, sitting talking in the car. And so that just burned me up, that I could have potentially impacted them in such a negative way when all they were doing is what a million, high school kids do, or, young kids sitting in the car chatting. Right. Like, and here I come smashing into the back of that. Like the long lasting traumatic impact of that, it hit me instantly of when I saw that there was people in there. And then it didn't stop though. So as I get out of the car and I'm rushing over to see if they're okay, it was so loud, all the neighbors are coming out now. So the neighbors come out and all I can hear is, was he on his phone? Was he texting? I bet he was texting. See that texting? And immediately I just shut down because I don't know what's the right move. I don't know what's the right thing to say. I don't know what's going to implicate me in the wrong way. Right. And I'm so heavy hearted because that's just not who I am. And I've impacted this person and I got to call my wife now. And it was definitely a very tough and traumatic time. Fortunately, the young lady and the young man were completely fine. Everything was metal, glass, and plastic that was able to be replaced and mended. But it definitely took a toll. And then I had to figure out, well, I'm in a 2-hour per night sleep mode. How do I get to school, to work, and to the internship that I've committed to, that I'm almost finished with, that's going to get me to that next level? Yeah. So fortunately, it all worked out. But yeah, D, that was a tough moment.
Yeah, so if I had to venture to say, I won't say it's the first time because you may have some childhood experiences, but that was certainly one of the times, even before the one you read about, that you were not okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was definitely the precursor, or at least one precursor to your point.
Yeah, so any questions?
No, just going too hard.
Look, there's nothing much more for me to say than that, right? Like having the 1-year-old and the newborn. Like I remember in the cradle or in the car seat, rocking with my foot up here trying to do the work, and then the other one is sleeping on the couch. I remember trying to give my wife a few minutes. Too hard, going way too hard. Absolutely. Yeah. But I feel like a lot of us don't have. I consider it lucky when black and brown people have options.
Yes.
Often we don't have an option, and that puts us in a corner, and then we make bad decisions. At that time, I felt like that was my only option to be able to get to the next level.
Yeah, to say you turned into your neighborhood, you woke up to a crash. I don't know if people caught that or not, which means you were driving while you were asleep.
I was. I mean,
you didn't say, hey, I nodded off and then crashed into a car. No, you woke up to a crash.
Yes, I did.
People say that may be the same thing. No, that's not the same thing. Yeah. There's some difference there. That's bananas, man. And all because you are and were and are a brother who was trying to make a better life for you and your family.
That's it.
The same thing that so many of us who lose sleep every night go through. So I get it, man.
Definitely impacts, us as brothers. You and I talk about it all the time, right? All the time. Absolutely.
All right, so let's fast forward, brother. You made your way. You survived that scare. Mm-hmm. You've made it through the internship. You've made it through school. Mm-hmm. You're now a full-time employee at Bank of America.
That's right.
You're you're making your presence felt.
Mm-hmm.
Just knowing the kind of brother you are.
You know it.
I know you go hard. If there's a position, you're going to go for it. You're going to scream. You're going to shout. They're going to recognize John Hill. I already know that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's fast forward to 2020, a year that probably for all of us, us sitting here, people watching, that we'd like to forget in most cases.
Mm-hmm.
For me, COVID was crazy. I lost my dad in 2020.
Oh yeah.
It was just a really tough year. Compound that with the, I'm not going to say covert racism that we started experiencing, that we had continued to experience
That's
as
right.
a country with the George Floyd murder. And that day back in May of 2020, I think it was.
I think so. That's
May
right.
25th.
May 25th of 2020. You penned what we heard in the beginning of this episode. You call it an email. I call it an opus. An absolute masterpiece. You penned this letter to your organization, to Bank of America.
That's right.
This thing could have literally gone a couple ways.
Yes.
It could have gone like, all right, this brother sends this email out to essentially the entire organization before it was all said and done. It didn't start that way, but it kind of matriculated and mushroomed into that.
That's right.
It could have been easily call him to the office. Hey, John, we ain't got time for this. We're going to let you go. Talk about the process of writing the opus. Again, I'm not calling it an email. This is
Okay.
an absolute opus.
Okay.
Talk about the writing process of that. What was going on in your mind? What's going on with your emotions? Just the whole 9 yards that got us to the point where that actually you hit the send on it, and it kind of blew up in Bank of America.
So let me add one more thing onto that. So this was Monday, May 25th, that George Floyd was murdered, and we're gonna call it what it was. So, like the rest of us, on Tuesday, you went to work.
Exactly.
So then we'll pick up with what Dee asked there. Want to hear what was your state of mind? Where were you mentally, and going back in there on that Tuesday, and how did you get to the point of this letter to literally to the second biggest bank in America?
I mean, both of the points that y'all brought up are extremely critical, right? To understand at that moment what's going on and how I'm reacting. So let's take it maybe 12, 18 months before then. I'm extremely active at the bank, to your point, D, not only in what I do for my day job, but in trying to be a culture carrier in the second largest financial firm. And so we have employee resource groups, and I'm extremely active in those groups, ensuring that there is community for our Black African-American talent that come in, right? That they can understand that there are people like them. They have resources that they can leverage. There is network that is instantly they can come into and make it a place in which they can flourish and achieve their career goals. And I am adamant about that. Yeah. So here I am trying to be a culture carrier, right? And the murder happens. Now, we're already at home trying to understand how to navigate being at home.
Yep.
Right? Like from a corporate standpoint, like virtually we're set up as a global company. Yeah. But I'm not at home but prior to this on a day-to-day with CNN available all day long, with social media popping up on my phone all day long. I can't get away from George Floyd, the impacts of what's going on, Breonna Taylor. I mean, everyone that leads up to this, right? I mean, to your point, Joe, you got to be Black. Understand that it could be you.
Yep.
It may be your family. Right. But you got to come back and every day on that phone or in your company deliver. And you better deliver in the way in which it doesn't compromise your brand or the value that you bring. Right. And so I think as a people, we're okay compartmentalizing. I would say as a human race, compartmentalization comes with the territory.
Yep.
Yeah.
Being Black, African American, even more.
Yep.
Right? Day to day. I got to, change the nature of my voice. I have to change the nature of my gait and my walk. I got to make sure my 6'3" frame doesn't become threatening to you. Right? Because that's what God graced me with. And so all of this is coming to a head. And I'm working remotely. I'm on a new team. Right before this, I get asked to sit on a D&I council for that team. So I got the employee resource group, which is agnostic to my department. Then my department is saying, hey, do you mind sitting on the DEI? I've done this before. So I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Right. Absolutely. Make sure the people within our team feel inclusive and included. And so I can't, knowing who I am, now this happens, I can't get out of it. I'm on calls around IT. I'm thinking about who got murdered, how they got murdered, who's next. More importantly, my kids are right here at home, being homeschooled. I'm trying not to have CNN available for right then, but they're kids.
Right.
They're picking up on it. The kids are talking about it, even in class, right? Remote learning, like it's coming up here and there.
Right.
And so they're having conversations with me on like, daddy, police murder people. I'm just... Our community, we know we got to have the conversation on how to interact with the police.
Yeah.
If you want your kid to come back home,
Yep.
you got to have a conversation, but not at the age that they were. I wasn't ready for that.
Right.
I was not ready for that. So I remember I was emotionally wrought. I'm talking about, I remember I was crying at night. I was trying to keep it away from them. I was like, kids in this world, how are they going to interact? Already in the neighborhood is nice. I can't even let my kids go out. Like I see other kids riding their bike down the street. I don't have that privilege to allow that because I'm the whole time thinking, what is my kid going to get accused of because of the color of his skin? Right back to the email that says all this up. And so I just got to a breaking point. Like I got to say something. I've been vocal to date within the bank to a degree. Mm-hmm. Another point to know, because I come in at 16 years in financial services, because in my perspective, I don't have a natural alignment at 16, 15, 14 of Black in corporate America being successful and genuine, I assimilate. That to me is what success looks like.
Yeah.
I assimilate. I remember spending hours getting rid of the Virginia twang. Making sure you can't hear blackness in my voice. I remember spending hours to do that because to me that was success. So all of this is coming to a head, and it was when Sesame Street had put on a program to try to teach your kids about what's going on in a way that's digestible. Yeah. And I was like, Sesame Street is putting on race relations because of the murder, not just because it's in their typical programming, because of the murder. And that was like, it was almost too much to handle. Yeah. And I remember I just broke down. I started crying. I was at my dining room table. I started crying. And I was like, I got to say something. Mm-hmm. And I started typing. And I would delete and erase and rewrite, right? Tears would hit the keyboard. I was trying to keep it away from the kids. I was also... I think this also ties in a little bit as well. So I'm in a lot of boards and other outside organizations, and I was doing newscasts virtually as well, right? Talking to the news about, 18 to 24 violence, what they were calling black on black violence, whatever. It's people killing people, right? And like it because they don't have a lot of choices or options, like back to what we were talking about. But all of this is coming to a head. And finally, after a bunch of writing and rewriting and editing, right? Things that I would normally do with my day job. I was like, look, if I keep doing this, I'll never hit send. I'll never hit send. D, what happens after I send this, right? Do I not have a job? Did the black guy step too far out? Like, right. Yeah, DEI, but within realm, right? Within under control, sir. You got a little out of control here. So, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm super filled. What if I send it and nobody reads it?
Hey guys, this is DB with the Sullivan Man Podcast. Hey, we really appreciate you guys rocking with us all these months. The feedback has been amazing. We hope to continue to bring you amazing content. We need a huge favor from you though. We need you to like. I think that like button is somewhere right here. We need you to share. I think it's right here maybe. And we need you to subscribe. Come on guys, keep rocking with us and share this content. And we want to reach millions. We appreciate you.
Right? Because the silence was already deafening, right? People that weren't stepping up or showing up. We DEI, we got all kind of stuff going on. No one's addressing this particular issue directly in Bank of America. And I shouldn't say no one. From what I was seeing, not on a global or scalable view. So I sent it. And that moment was like I got a chance to take a because I wasn't okay. When I sent that, it got me a little closer to I'm okay because people can hear what the hell I'm saying. What view do I have? And I had been vocal enough that I felt like they would respect it from me because I'm the one sitting next to you, helping you get your bonus at the end of the year, or helping you get your promotion or expanded responsibilities because I'm helping you sit on that team. But that's really what I was going through at the time and my state of mind.
I literally just exhaled. I've read it many times, and hearing you go through the explanation of where you were mentally, subconsciously, I was holding my breath. And I've shared with you when Dee first sent it to me. I worked in professional sports for many years, and my immediate thought was the movie Jerry Maguire. And Jerry was, you remember the scene, Jerry was leaving his sports marketing firm, or this firm that he worked for.
Right.
And he had written the letter.
That's right.
To the firm.
That's right. His opus.
His opus. And everybody got it. Everybody read it. And, he's making his plea.
That's right.
Because he's out. Mm-hmm. And when he first sent it to me, that was the immediate thought that came to mind, because it could have gone so many different ways. And for us, the way
right
more than likely would go.
History tells it.
History tells it is you out.
Right.
Angry black man.
Absolutely. Labeled instantly. Easily let go because of.
Yep.
Don't care that you ain't okay.
Yeah.
Don't care that we saw this in broad daylight.
Mm-hmm.
Don't care that we saw what was described as a modern day lynching in broad daylight. Don't care.
Exactly.
You out. So how did it go?
It went differently than what I thought in some aspects, and in some aspects what I thought. My goal was to remove the distance that our counterparts felt. That happened over in that state. That happens over there. Now, this could happen to me. Right, exactly. This could happen to the guy that you had coffee with at the coffee cooler this morning, right? Or the water cooler, or got coffee with at Starbucks, or whatever the case is, walked in, had your first meeting with. What happens when it's that guy that's right there? That's what I wanted to do, was to remove the distance, because a lot of times the proximity is there, right? That's what dictates how you respond or how you feel. Yeah. In this scenario, it worked out exactly the way I hoped. I got that email, to your point earlier. It was forwarded, and then forwarded some more, and forwarded some more, until it actually got to, I'm sure it got to several people, but one of the phone calls that was definitely, which is what I was not expecting, maybe I was, but didn't expect it, was the head of DEI at the bank, our diversity and inclusion officer. And she's a black woman, great woman. I actually now work under her tutelage in my current capacity, but she gave a phone call. First question was, Johnathan, I understand that you wrote that you're not okay, but tell me how you're feeling. Mm-hmm. That was how she started the question off, which was phenomenal. Mm-hmm. Now, I didn't take it that way. I let her have it, right? I was still in my emotions and my feelings at that time. Look, we got some diversity issues, right? We still have a long way to go, and what we were actually doing and how we're treated. And we say that we're in a firm that allows you to be able to step into the door and bring your whole self, but not all of us feel in that way. And so I went off, and she, calmly replied back, to try to bring me back down. And the conversation went well, right? We ended the conversation well. But then I got a call from the head of HR for all of Bank of America. And she called. Wow. Her first question that she said was, Johnathan, are you okay? Right? And that to me was a sense of comfort. Because it could have been, some HR person within my department that was like, "Hey, you okay? I'm glad you're okay, but we'll see you tomorrow. For you to come pick up your stuff, right? We got a box for you,
Right. Right.
So it went much better in that capacity. But then, what most of the time happens, I was asked to start sitting on panels because the trauma was to me, and now I needed to be the teacher of trauma. Right? That's what we get welcome to do.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right? Is sit on the panels. But, I took it because I received a lot of text messages from peers that were like, Jonathan, I'm glad that you were able to step up and say it. And they saw it because on our intranet, it was posted on our intranet for the entire organization, over 200,000 people to see when they logged in.
Wow.
Worldwide.
Worldwide, global organization, global intranet. So that was probably the first time that my words hit the global capacity or myself, but it was those what we call at the bank courageous conversations. Other people have used that terminology as well, but those times when we need to sit down and have conversations that are not financially driven, right? That are not Bank of America, hey, here's a financial institution, this is what we do, but really coming together as an organization because we employ so many people. We need to actually have real conversations about how people feel and what they're going through. And we call those courageous conversations. So I sat on a ton of them, paneled a ton of those. But what I have heard since, because we still talk about it, still talk about this letter. It still comes up around MLK time, right? Still comes up on the anniversary of the Flores murder, that we still talk about it within the bank. But several managers, now that I talk about it these days, think back to the time and say, I remember there was a catalyst as a manager that I was approached by HR that said, hey, here's a toolkit on how you talk to Black African-American talent about what's happening right now.
Yeah.
And many of them say it happened right around the letter time. As, what was the precedence to actually set that toolkit going out. Now, I haven't validated if that's the true case or not, but it was around that same time. And I was contacted when the toolkit went out to management across the entire organization and across our entire enterprise so that we could really have these conversations to be able to move forward because, again, the silence was deafening.
Yeah.
Deafening.
Yeah.
No, it's interesting, man. I remember getting a call. I had a client who is probably the largest manufacturer of body cameras and tasers that cops wear. He called me and said, hey, Darren, this is Luke. I just want to call and see if you're okay. And I'm like, this is crazy. This guy is president of a multi-billion-dollar company. By the way, they make the body cameras and the tasers that these cops are wearing, but their whole mission is to make the bullet obsolete. And also to make sure that the data that comes from the body cameras, that the data is real and pure, that it's not tainted data.
Nice.
So the data goes off to these data centers that are nowhere close to police stations and police offices and headquarters. So that whenever you go to court, that data is captured and you can see real good raw footage. It's not being messed with or tainted or any of that. Integrity of the data.
That's right.
So when he called me, he was like, hey, man, I will never know how you feel. But I am calling you because I'm your client now. I want to make sure you're okay. And, dude, it took me from wanting to go out and do some damage.
Sure.
I'm just going to call it.
Look, I recall. I'm with you.
Yes. I want to go move some furniture.
To put it lightly.
Yes. To man, you know what? There are some people out here who don't look like me, who genuinely care about people who do look like me.
Yep.
And so when you get it, when this opus, again, matriculates through Bank of America and it gets to the right desk and people are starting to have conversations around this, it's got to ease the pain a little. Certainly it's not going to ease it all the way because, let's face it, here we are today, and it has since happened again since then.
Sure.
So I don't know that we'll ever be, quote unquote, okay. But, and I tell my friends who are not of color, it doesn't do me any good for me to speak up. It's not going to change anything until you speak up.
Absolutely.
When you guys speak up and speak out against this, and I think we started to see this during the whole movement, the Black Lives Matter, and whatever you think about that, and that's a whole other story. But it did rally a bunch of people together. So I want to step back just a little, because you're on your keyboard, you're typing, the tears are falling from your eyes. You're thinking about, all right, should I sin? Should I not? Someone say you're in your feelings. You can call it whatever you want to, but those feelings were warranted and justified.
Yep.
But you also got to say, I have this wife, and I have these two kids.
That's right.
Your wife works.
That's
she
right.
makes her money, but you're the primary breadwinner. If you look at it on the grand scheme of things, I'm assuming.
That's right.
Yeah. For me to potentially hit this send button and to get a box and an exit letter could be detrimental to my family. I know your wife. What did she say to you during that time? What was her feelings? Because I know my wife would have been like, Darren, look, are you sure you want to do this? Because they're all about security. And I ain't mad at her. That's how it should be.
That's right.
My wife likes the security of a paycheck coming in, bills being paid, roof over our head, lights on, and all of that stuff. And I don't think my wife is any different than yours.
That's right.
What did she say? How did she feel about that?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I even tried to go back and recollect to remember, right? What was her perspective and her thought process? And I have a hard time remembering because, and I'll be very specific on why. It was, to me, one of those defining moments in my life. Having the notion to write the letter, but then was I going to back from that? And I'm not even sure whether I told her about it before or after I sent the letter. I can't even remember. I'm going to be honest, right? She probably look at this later like, well, you talked to me before that. But I really don't remember because it was like, again, one of those moments where I'm going to remember this moment forever and what decision I made. I hear you say all the time, the red pill or blue pill.
Yep.
Right? Shout out to the Matrix.
Exactly.
Right? But, I'm probably going to remember forever that I had this moment and what did I do? And to me, it was a no-brainer. I needed to actually have that conversation, which again, was, I know we didn't necessarily go here, but, it led to other things, right? It led down the path to other things. So it was definitely well worth it. But to say that me being the main breadwinner on an upward track within the corporate environment, to say that this might have been an obstacle or better yet, a bullet that, blew everything up, absolutely could have been the case. But I do feel like there was a strong corporate culture around diversity and inclusion that really gave me some solace that this was the right move. I'd been kind of getting molded and bred in that way.
And I have, again, I have nothing that ties me to this, but I'm going to say shout out to the people at Bank of America. Yeah. You're talking about a large corporation who could have seriously been like, you know what, we're all about our dollars.
Oh, 100%.
We hate this happen, or let's put out the typical press release. Let's find someone to spin doctor this internally and pretend that we care. But no, they actually didn't. They actually took steps. So I'm going to give them props where props are deserved.
And again, huge global organization.
Oh, absolutely.
Where, in this situation could have been different in any organization that you went to, but on a smaller scale, because I worked in DI and seen some of this on a smaller scale. Truly, if the commitment, to your point, if the commitment isn't there, top down, this would have been a thank you.
Right.
Here's the cardboard box. Collect your things, and good luck.
And let's be honest, they got the means and the availability to spin this and sweep this whatever they want, right? From a financial means perspective, and instead gave me the platform because I wasn't looking for advocating anymore. I heard someone say during that time they wanted some accomplices. I want you riding with me.
There you go.
Right? I want you in the car next to me on being able to stamp this out And that's what I was looking for. And they gave me the platform.
And I don't want that person to look like me.
Because
It's easy to get people who look like me
100%.
to ride for me.
That's right.
Yep.
I need some people who don't look like me to ride.
And you know, that's what we're fighting for. We're not typically the gatekeepers or the governance or, you know, or the controlling factors, not at scale. I'm looking for the other people to join in, because I'll be damned if someone's going to disrespect a woman in my presence, no matter if it's in the
what color
it does, right. It doesn't matter what color it is, and it doesn't matter what the forum is.
Right.
If you are disrespecting a woman at corporate, I'm going to find a way to corporately put you in your place,
Yep.
right, and allow her and bring her up, and you know, I just there's no room for that. So if I can be an accomplice for women's rights, I'm looking for accomplice for me to be able to make sure I can step in and be myself at work and not have to put a face on and mask up and, you know, everything it is that we have to do as far as, you know, making sure that we scale back on what we are from our blackness and our culture when we walk across those threshold doors.
It's funny, man, and I just thought about something that's really interesting. Then we'll move on and talk about where you are today and what you're doing today. But during this time that you penned this opus, you're also part of the 100 Black Men of Charlotte.
That's right.
And you're leading and spearheading a Stop the Violence campaign.
That's right.
In our community.
That's right.
So you have billboards all over Charlotte.
That's right.
And in those billboards, or on those billboards, it's typically, let's stop, you know, black on black. Let's think about this. Stop the black on black crime.
And then,
But when the real crime, well, I shouldn't say the real, but when the crime that made international news,
that's right.
it ain't the black on black.
That you're right.
It's the blue on black or the white on black. And so for you, man, you got, okay, I got to do these campaigns, which are much needed. I think the data shows that the campaigns work great and everything else. But at the same time, I'm like, all right, I need black man to stop killing black man. But there's no one doing a campaign
You're absolutely right.
for this kind of
You talking about somebody torn?
Yeah.
You talking about somebody that's right again on the news,
Couldn't forget about that.
right? Talking about the campaign, and you know, the community is polarized in that,
Yeah.
right? From why would you do a sign that has a black person holding a gun with another black person on it as well?
Yeah.
Right to have the opinion. Let's have
That's
a
a
conversation and let's talk about it. Absolutely. And every billboard didn't look in that way, but you're right. That was just one more component that contributed to what I was going on in my mental anguish. Yeah. You're absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Yeah,
And
I did not want to forget that because I thought that was I thought the campaign was dope, and B,
that.
just the timing of it was how ironic.
yes,
So,
yes.
So-
and I'm gonna tell you what though. One last thing there is, and because I know we're moving next.
Good.
When I talk about assimilation, 26 years in financial services, I never had this hair. I never had a beard. I didn't talk like this. People would tell me, okay, John, you don't have to every time we get on the call have a white voice. They would tell me that all the time, like my fellas and my boys all the time. John, you don't always have to have that. Like you can talk like yourself. And I'm like, the thing is, I've trained myself. I don't know what my real voice sounds like. What is that supposed to sound like?
Right.
I've been talking like this for 20 years. But I tell you what, after George Floyd, I figured it out. The cadence purposely was going to be different.
Yeah.
Right? I was no longer going to change my tone to make sure that I hid any cultural reference. No, I'm celebrating all of that.
Yep.
The hair is coming absolutely. And any young person that comes behind me, now my counterparts will be able to leverage my brand and what I brought to the table so that they don't put an immediate stigma on these young folks that are coming through. And it was absolutely intentional for me. Since then, I've been on a crusade. And look, you might as well just listen because I'm talking.
Hey.
Right? I'm finding a platform and a podium or something. And again, thankfully, you know, to Bank of America, many individuals, right? It's not the organization.
Right.
It's individuals, right, within the organization that make these decisions, and they've been able to rally right behind me and provide the platform and support.
Nah, that's a good look, man. It's funny. When I got moved back to North Carolina, you looked totally different than when I moved away. When we moved to Arizona.
When we came back from COVID,
came back
and I
from
walked
COVID.
in the door to the bank, people were like, right, I think that's John, right? But yeah, they hadn't seen me in a couple years.
Right. To come back into an organization though, and be able to be authentic.
Yes.
Yourself. because in so many places, you still don't have the feeling that you can just be authentically you.
Absolutely.
We talked about this a little bit earlier, and you said, prior to, someone coming in with natural hair, and you said, the undertone was, oh, okay, well, they don't want to be on the advancement track.
That's right.
That's real.
That is real.
That is 100% real.
And you know what? It's a blessing to see you in your early 40s. We're closer to 60. To see you in your early 40s be at that point. It took me a longer period of time to get there. My runway is getting shorter. I don't give a damn.
I feel you. Nevertheless,
I do not give
love
a
it.
Damn.
Love it.
At this point. Here I am.
And you've earned it.
I've earned it. I've advocated for us. I've lost. Martyred myself. With
Fell on the sword.
Fell on the sword, fighting for us, with no recognition, no accolade, no whatever, and didn't need it. And to see a generation come behind in a couple of organizations winning, and I'm saying, I'm thrilled for you, but you have no idea the fights.
We stand on some strong shoulders, brother.
man.
And I will say it every time I
So
think.
do we.
Right. Exactly.
So
and to understand, and that's the beauty of the podcast. I've heard so many people already say thank you all for having the forum, because now we get a chance, to even see and talk to some of those individuals that we stand on, or their relatives, right, of those shoulders.
I think one of our earlier guests, Eric Montgomery from Charlotte, he's he's so glad to see Black intellectualism back. Because if nothing else, we leave, we're gonna make sure we have quality guests, and we're gonna do our best to be educated on as many topics as we can possibly be educated on.
Yeah.
Love it.
And you're not, we may laugh and joke here and there, but you're not going to get the foolishness.
Yeah.
There's no buck and shuffle here.
Yeah.
It's just not what we do.
I love
you,
it.
You said something about our peers and the time spent with these 40-year-olds.
Yeah. So I always say, my peers keep me honest. You young brothers who I come to Charlotte and hang out with, do date night with our spouses, you guys keep me hungry and you keep me humble. And I can appreciate
That's
it.
awesome.
Yeah.
Look, man, before we wrap, I got to fast forward.
For
this
real?
thing. I know, bro. I know. So Bank of America, everything works out. You start to, again, move up this corporate ladder.
That's right.
You're killing it. Then all of a sudden you get a lot of community responsibility. You are a big giver. Your philanthropic work, man, is crazy for UNC Charlotte. You ride for the Black students who attend
That's
UNC
right.
Charlotte. UNC Charlotte. I can honestly say I've never given money to a PWI in my life. I'm HBCU to my heart.
I love it, though.
And when you sent out your notice that you were doing this, I couldn't help myself but give. And every time you send out that notice every year, I make sure I dig in my pocket. Because I take
Appreciate
the PWI versus HBCU away.
Right.
I know that your mission and what you're doing on the UNC Charlotte campus is to help someone who chose to go to a PWI, but they look like me.
That's right.
And I know that. Man, I appreciate the work. Talk about it just a little. And then I want to also talk about Commonwealth Customs. And also, before we check out of this piece, talk about the scholarship program that you and your wife created as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That was allowed. I'm going to try to make sure I hit everything in the
you.
appropriate way. But I think I'm so comfortable in my skin today, to your point, Chill, right? We all have a different time period that it takes to be able to get to that point. But I'm so comfortable today and advocate for the next generation that's coming forward. Yeah. And it really doesn't matter in what capacity or form, again, I happen to be in, whether it's in the corporate setting, whether it's in the scholastic setting. And I'll be honest, UNC Charlotte changed my life. Right?
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, look, I don't live a paycheck to paycheck life, right? And
That's what's up.
right? And I didn't know if that would ever be the case. I remember being young and having nightmares of being poor. I don't know where that came from because my mom did a pretty good job to make sure that we recognized we were not, less than. But although we had our challenges, and I used to have nightmares that I was going to be poor. I've asked my wife before we got married. I said, well, "So, babe, what happens if one day I can't afford the air conditioning?" Right? And I was serious. But for me, is being so authentic and real in who I am, and knowing that there is people behind me that need a leg up. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right? You get into corporate. Do you have somebody that was in corporate to be able to usher you through what that looks like? Yeah. What does that transition for us look like? What does college to corporate in general look like? Right? All of those things that actually occur, I feel absolutely compelled that that's my job, in addition to what I have as a day job, to make sure that I am there for that individual, that I make myself available. I have plenty of people ahead of me that have done the same for me. And so it just is in my DNA now that I will be an advocate and a resource for those that come by, whether that, again, that's UNC Charlotte, whether that's the bank, whether that's 100 Black men, whether that's coaching, athletics, anything, right? I just want to be there. And so, again, that's deeply bred within me. And again, I appreciate every year when I go on my scholarship tip and ask my people. And really the thing that I do is, if you donate to UNC Charlotte, love it. Great. Here's some funds that I think you should donate to. I don't care if it's $5. But if you don't feel compelled to donate to me, donate to your college. Yeah. Or donate to your college that's near you geographically, or that your parents went to. We have too many HBCUs that have a 1% or a 2% alumni give back rate, right? And I ain't talking about A&T that's got the greatest homecoming on earth, right? Two gentlemen I know that went there and have no problem with Aggie pride. None. But there's other places that, if just a fraction of people gave back. Yeah. And to me, UNC Charlotte has done too much for me in my life, surrounded me by too many great individuals, and put an ecosystem around me that not only provide me success, but my children. Yep. Immediately, generationally, they are set up in a different way, in a different capacity than I am. So again, in my DNA, love that you give back. Appreciate you, D. But as I flow directly in, the last time I did that cry for scholarship dollars, several guys in my group was like, "John, when is your scholarship coming? Because you're raising money for all these other scholarships. When is yours coming?" So breaking news. I've not told anyone really that the scholarship that my wife and I are creating is penned, is inked, and it's ready. It is an ode to both her grandmother and my grandmother. And it's named in their namesake, and it is a scholarship specifically trying to identify folks from my area, right? Not necessarily just 7-5, but anybody in the Virginia area. They get preferential treatment to that scholarship first, but welcomes them to UNC Charlotte if they're looking for a college abroad or outside of the state. So I am very happy to be able to start raising funds to endow that scholarship so that it can live on in perpetuity past my wife and I, past our children, but continue our names for our grandmother's sake, which both of them had absolutely a strong presence in both of our lives growing up. So thank you for allowing me to break that here, gentlemen. I appreciate that.
Incredible.
No doubt, brother.
Incredible.
Well, look, man, this has been another amazing episode of The Soul of the Man. Yeah. John, man, we appreciate you coming on. We appreciate you just opening up your arms to us. Bruh, I chased you because I knew you were busy, man. I was not going to let you get out of my sight. But, Brad, I knew you didn't run away intentionally. I know you have obligations that you had to take care of. But I appreciate you making time, brother. Yeah. Keep up the good work, man. Keep being that role model for those young and old. Again, bro, you younger than me, but I look up to you.
Yeah, appreciate that. Can I,
man, please,
one request, and you'll have the last word. On the importance of us looking out for each other.
Yeah.
In those settings where we can impact those coming behind us. Advocating for someone younger, someone in need, someone who does not have maybe the knowledge that you have in this room that you're in, and these spaces that you're in.
Absolutely.
You'll have the last word on this episode.
I love that. Appreciate that. The collective power, right, that we have is truly phenomenal, and we don't leverage it enough. I have had some top brass at the bank that in my mind, I know they were looking at me like, okay, all skin folk and kin folk. Let me figure out whether they're going to get my representative or not. And I didn't. I got that guy that was completely authentic. Like we were chopping it up on the corner in the house. And that to me should be on everybody's heart. To be able to identify, we used to have the reach one, teach one, right? That was a common phrase. But identify somebody. Take somebody underneath your wing and challenge them to take someone underneath their wing.
Come on.
I can't mentor you if you're not mentoring someone else.
Right. Come on.
I don't care where you are in your corporate or in your entrepreneur or where you are in life. You can find somebody else to be a mentor to. And it can look like anything in any capacity. There's no constraints or restraints around what it looks like to be able to give back and pour into somebody. So that, to your point, I appreciate you giving me that because it has been a tremendous compliment to be able to be asked to be someone's mentor, right? I saw something in you. Could you pour into me, please? It's something that I didn't take advantage of when I was young, and I had people trying to, help me out or give me a leg up, and I would love that. Actually, I'm gonna take one last second. It reminds me of one of my childhood friends that I ran into here in Charlotte. We rekindled the friendship, and he came to me one day and said, "John, I want to open up a sneaker custom business." I said, I don't really know much about the sneaker game, right? I assimilated very early, right? The sneaker game, Tim's wasn't really in my portfolio, right? That wasn't me. But I did some research, and that was the time when like Netflix was doing sneakerheads. There was a bunch of other things around sneakers. StockX was banging, right? Putting things out and getting people acclimated and putting dollar amounts to shoes and standardizing the industry. And I did the research. I was like, this is a no-brainer. This makes sense. I don't know nothing about customizing shoes, right, but I will absolutely support you from an operational perspective, being able to have some strategic vision and really be able to deliver on something and create something that you can leave your day job and actually have as your own. I am dedicated to it and committed to it. And we opened and together became Commonwealth Customs, which is the shirt I'm donning today. And again, it just comes full circle. I do so much on the campus at UNC Charlotte. They saw me in the custom work, and we've done hundreds of shoes customized for the campus and had a university logo on Nikes, which were on basketball team, football team, all kind of departments. So it's definitely been a blessing. But had it not been for me looking to give back, right, and to make sure that I was a good friend and a good mentor or mentee, and we don't necessarily have that relationship, my best friend and I, but it was that willingness to make sure I give back. I think everybody should support that.
That's it.